Recently, when I was doing some sketching, I started thinking about repeating the same subject. I've done that with oil paintings multiple times, but with pencil sketching, it's really not something that I've explored too much. So I started thinking about, as I was sketching, some of the considerations for repeating subjects. So I thought that might be an interesting topic for a video in one of these sketching walkthrough videos. So the one I have on screen is just a basic head and shoulders portrait, and I start these the same way that I start the oil paintings and other sketches, is just trying to rough out the shape of the head, and then just sort of where visually the features start coming into place, getting a horizontal midline for the eyes and a vertical midline where the nose and the middle of the mouth are, and then just sort of trying to rough out shapes of shadows. So I've talked in some of the pencil drawing walkthrough videos that I've done about some of the similarities between pencil drawing and painting for me now that I started painting. Painting really did transform my drawing process in a surprising way. It modified kind of the freehand approach, just sort of looking at shapes of specific lightness and darkness, and kind of using those as my benchmarks for where things should be. So that's kind of been something that's transformed my pencil drawing. And similarly, trying to rough out the same subject, there's some of the same considerations and some of the same challenges as well. And the thing that kind of ties it all together is the fact that obviously with pencil drawing, you've got a fine tip on a pencil. It's not broad, or at least with the materials that I use, which is just a number 2 pencil, a Ticonderoga. It's a fine tip, as opposed to a paintbrush, which you can lay down a broad swath of kind of shapes of color and shapes of similar value with a paintbrush. But with a pencil, obviously, it's different. So that's kind of a challenge with laying down shapes of shadows and similar light and dark pieces. You can't really do it as well with a pencil, or at least you can kind of do it. So that's a similar concern with likenesses, trying to achieve the same likeness for a repeated subject. Like this ended up being the same subject that I did for my last drawing video, and kind of trying to achieve that is a little trickier with that fine tip, because those individual lines and areas are more precisely defined. So you're not really looking at subtlety to show those features. There's a more precise tip, and also just kind of, and that reflects in the likenesses that you're trying to achieve. So trying to capture the same subject can be tricky. You really have to focus on where those precise lines are and what the shapes of those features are. It's definitely a little trickier, I think, with pencil. You can certainly lean on some vagaries with paint that you can't with pencil. So as far as the walkthrough goes, typically with these, I think it varies from time to time just based on what's appearing, but once I've got that kind of those rough shapes in place, I start to flesh out some of the details and start to add some depth to the portrait, and then eventually I come back for another pass. Essentially, I take a look at where the portrait is and what features kind of look right. And sometimes it involves like just sort of pausing and kind of pulling myself back away from it and considering the entire likeness, or considering, like, kind of taking in the whole piece. Does the shape actually look right? Does do the particular shadows, does the shape of the eye, does the shape of the nose, does the size of the nose and the size of the mouth, do they fit? Does it all make sense? So with this one in particular, when I was kind of taking that step back and trying to take in the whole portrait, one of the things that hit me was the tilt of the head and the alignment of the eyes didn't make complete sense. I think they pass kind of like the initial test of looking at it, but when you start to pick it apart early on in the sketch, it didn't seem to align. So after doing that kind of examination look at it, about, I would say it was probably about 2/3 or 3/4 of the way through it. After doing that, then I started kind of trying to work over the shape of the chin and the jaw, and kind of trying to lower or tilt the eye level a little bit. So kind of trying to adjust. One of the things that you're always battling with pencil, though, that you don't have to battle with as much with paint, is the tooth of the paper. So how much material the paper can accept before it starts to become messy. It's more of a concern with colored pencils, with the waxy substance that colored pencil cores are made out of. Paper can only accept so much of that waxy substance before it just doesn't do anything else. Graphite is a little better as far as that goes. You can certainly get more of it onto there, but eventually it just becomes so messy that you can't really do much else. And erasing, just at some point you just kind of damage your paper. So that's kind of a concern. So this one overall I think turned out pretty decent. I think it kind of looked like the previous subject. So like just kind of the basic math of portraiture. The thing I always look at is, did this turn out at least mostly how I wanted it to? And does it look like the person it's supposed to, if it's indeed like a replication of a previous portrait, or if it's a real person that I'm drawing or painting, making sure that it looks like them is kind of job number one. So I think overall it does look like that previous pencil sketch. So I consider that a victory. So quick little exercise. I'm not sure how long this took. I think maybe it was 30 minutes for the sketch, maybe 20. It wasn't a long one, but yeah, pretty fun. So that's all I have for this pencil sketch. I appreciate you watching, and hope to see you for the next video.